Thanks, Farhan, for the introduction. So this speech will actually build on the nice introduction that Francisco has made on how to support the operation of the technology that he presented by means of the real-time grid observability. So, but before that, let me just briefly present you myself and our company to give you a small profile. So we are a technology and innovation SME funded actually as a spin-off from the Public Research Institute as spinning off with the technology developed in one of the previous such projects. And we are applying the IoT, cyber physical systems, and artificial intelligence concepts mainly to the domain of energy. So our mission in this is to actually partner with the companies that have access to the market and help them bring on the market new disruptive solutions. And in this sense, so to partner with them for the design, certification, and actually making a market offering of such a solution. So there is some track record of this, which I'm showing here with some devices that we have designed. But in principle, these are the ones relevant for today's discussion: the power quality monitor, phasor measurement unit, and distributed energy resource gateway. So these have a strong relation to the resolved developments. However, there are also other products that we either have under design or that are already on the market. We are a team of approximately 10 people, mainly working in the design of embedded systems, hardware and software, applying the data analytics to the data of energy, and we do have some experts in the power systems. And as said, I mean, we are working on the proof of concept implementations, very interested in executing the pilots, and then partnering for the industrialization, certification, the production, and the support of the newly introduced products on the market. I'm the CEO of the company, so always available for any interaction or additional info that you may be interested in. And at this point, I would also like to, just mention that a part of Resolved, we are very much active in the space of innovation projects, currently running 4 projects with 2 upcoming very soon. And now let's go to the resolved results and how we are aiming to actually exploit these results. So this is actually just, in other words, saying the same motivation that Francisco already presented. So as up until now, so the infrastructure over-dimensioning was used as a measure in order to accommodate the requirements of the consumers on the grid. Well, given that this is not sustainable anymore, this is because of the escalating complexity of the grid, because of the different assets being connected to the grid, and all this disruption actually happening on the very edge of the grid, so in particular on the low voltage of the grid. So when necessary, the over-dimensioning or the reinforcement of the infrastructure needs to be complemented with the data-driven transformation to instantiate situational awareness and to allow for the assets to operate closer to the margin and in a coordinated manner, and to react in an online manner on the network disturbances. So in the context of this, so we see as the main enabler of this the online monitoring and knowledge management system. So to be able to present the information faster and more reliably, and by means of distributed, autonomous, and dynamic control capability. So that means to gradually transition from the preventive quasi-stationary control of the grid over the SCADA as we know it, to also with specific assets to the corrective or real-time control of the grid. And for this purpose, so within Resolved, we have developed the elements to allow for the observability of the grid, and we are aiming to actually upgrade those into the control devices. As introduced, so there are 3 prototypes that we have implemented within the Resolved. So these are the phaser measurement unit, power quality measurement device, and the gateway. And the ambition of those is to actually be able to implement a prototype of a unified platform for real-time monitoring, protection, and control of the grid, and then exploit these prototypes towards the market in products for a specific purpose. And so this is something that we are exploring within the Resolved in a pilot hosted by a DSO on the use case of disturbance detection, classification, localization, and mitigation. So there is a couple of specific competitive advantages that we see. So we have designed the hardware to be highly accurate, to have increased speed because of the needs of the distribution systems, to allow for the edge processing and connectivity, and to be attractive on the market from the cost perspective. So with this, we see a potential on the market to mainly to the 2,000 distribution system operators who are operating 10 million medium voltage substations and tens of millions of distributed energy resources, which in the perspective may require one device per location in order to enable the observability and control. How are we aiming to exploit the results on the potential that we have identified? So first is to actually advance the technology, and this is what we are doing with complementary pilots with the same hardware that we have also in the Resolved, and with the integration and interoperability with different assets from other vendors. And our aim is to actually enter on the market with partners with whom we would actually do the integration and together offer a turnkey solution. So with this, I am concluding the presentation, but would also like to show you a demo. So this is a laboratory setup that we have of 5 devices connected next to each other for the testing purposes. So these are all the phaser measurement units that are extended with the boards to enable the control capability. So what I will show you are the measurements of voltage and frequency on all 3 phases and the rate of change of frequency, which are from these devices reported to a phaser data concentrator, the PDC as we call it, with the frequency of 50 Hertz. So for every sine wave, we have a measurement. And for the demo purposes, we have just implemented a very simple visualization that's based on Grafana. So if you allow me just now to go to another screen. Okay. Okay. So as said, so this measurement device measures voltages, currents, frequency, and rate of change of frequency, and reports this very fast, so on a 50 Hz basis. And what I'm showing here are the real-time measurements of all three voltages. And on this graph, you can see them also being combined in one chart. So you can see that some events are only happening on one phase, otherwise the three phases can be quite correlated. And we are also monitoring the frequency and how fast this frequency is changing. So these instantaneous measurements allow us to get a very detailed insight into the events and the status on the grid, which we are in Resolved trying to detect and then to act upon based on a specific use case. So just to give you a bit nicer view, so these are the two-hour measurements on the three phases from this morning, on which actually we were simulating because the device was deployed very near to the to some sources of disturbance. So here that's been some motors, and this has been an oven for the production of the electronics. And we were actually observing how the turning on and off or the appearance of these devices is actually reflecting on the network. I mean, it's more on the local power quality level here, but if we would aggregate lots of such devices that and deploy the PMUs closer to the medium to low voltage transformer station, then we could observe the accumulated events on the grid. So with this, I finish the presentation and the demo, and I am of course open for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Miha. Thank you very much. It was very interesting to hear from your side. And without any wasting time, I would like to bring in our experts to the discussion. Maybe I could start with Santi this time. Santi, as you saw the market that was shown by Miha there in his presentation, but do you think there would be some questions that could the energy stakeholders or companies could ask before using this type of technology to tap into that big billion-dollar industry?
Hello. So it's me.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So first of all, thank you, Miha. Real-time information is a must if we want to talk about smart grid. Real-time. I mean, we must have it. Congratulations, because I have seen something which is clearly market-driven. I mean, this is something which is not for the art or for the philosophy of the energy system, but it's really market-driven. And I have only one question, because in one of your slides, I have seen 1 gigawatt real-time distributed energy resources, and I would like to understand this gigawatt. Yeah, bottom right.
Oh, sorry, that's been a misunderstanding. So what we see as an opportunity is to allow for the observability of the grid. It's to have one PMU per substation, yes. And in order to offer the control of the distributed energy resources, like for instance the one that was presented by Francisco before, and to offer this control to various stakeholders, maybe even at the same time. So there is a need for one gateway, which is a communication and protocol adaptation device per such a device.
It's not gigawatt, it's gateway.
No, it's not gigawatt, but it's a gateway.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, great. Thank you, Santi, for your question. And I think we all learned a bit of things there. And maybe I could move to Montse before the audience questions. Montse, if you have any questions for Miha, on this very presentation.
Yeah, so thank you very much. I agree with Santi that this is very relevant and very close to what we hear, that the market needs. I would just want to ask a question. You said, I mean, your market sizing, that there's 2,000 DSOs, 4 million substations. Is there any, like, since you can identify, different problems and different cases in the grid, how would you, like, what's your kind of target market, within these 4 million substations? What are the problems or use cases that you believe make most sense to tackle first, from a go-to-market perspective, to convince your potential clients to install your device?
Yeah, so so at the moment, so just to be very clear, at the moment, the main market is still the TSO market. So, I mean, this technology has been used for a time already at the TSO segment, but given all the dynamics introduced in the distribution grid now, it's more necessary in the distribution grid as well. So from the pilots that we have, I mean, in the Resolved and also in Italy, we see the need to actually capture the disturbances happening on the grid and try to understand them, which is something that you cannot do with a single measurement device at a particular location, but you need to do it on a system level. And then allow for the operators of the infrastructure to act upon these events. This is the first thing that we see very interesting. I mean, there is a clear market signals that there is interest. And the second thing is in the control of local areas or in the control of significant flexible resources to offer ancillary services. So this is a pilot that we have in Slovenia. So a large-scale battery being deployed and actually required to do to provide the ancillary service in a real-time manner, which is what we call the phaser-based control. And this is something that we are having in a pilot as well.
Great, thank you, Miha. Thank you, Monse and Santi. We have a few questions, but I'm at the last minute, so I wouldn't get into that now. But maybe, Miha, you can answer them using the Q&A button down on your screen. And as Brian just is reminding you through the chat, we are launching some polls throughout the presentations, after the presentation. So please do also look at those, and you see one of the polls coming in. So indeed, there are some people referring to this being relevant in the coming, very coming future, and that makes the complete sense of from being in now today in a TSO perspective and coming into DSO. So as we move along, I would